I moved into Pine Hollow Estates, believing it would be the quiet refuge my family needed after a long stretch of city living. The neighborhood sat at the edge of a forest preserve, rows of brick homes with clean sidewalks, tidy lawns, and a distant hum of sprinklers every morning. It was the kind of place where wind chimes whispered in the breeze and porch swings moved lazily under the golden sun. My wife, Amelia, and I had been looking for a space where our kids Milo and Ellie could grow up climbing trees and riding their bikes without constant horns or concrete walls. The house wasn't extravagant, but it sat on a generous lot backed by an old maple tree that Milo had immediately claimed as his. On our second day, he looked up at it and said, "Dad, we should build a fort up there." I laughed. He wasn't wrong. We didn't meet anyone from the HOA for weeks, just pamphlets and friendly welcome notes left on our porch. That changed abruptly one Saturday morning when the doorbell rang with an urgency that felt like it was trying to wake the dead. Standing on the porch was a woman in her late 50s, dressed like she was headed to court navy blazer, rigid slacks, and a stack of folders clutched to her chest like a weapon. She didn't introduce herself with a smile. "You must be the new residents. I'm Judith Cranston, HOA chair." I wiped my hands on my jeans and tried to meet her clipped tone with some warmth. "Good morning. Everything okay?" She didn't bother stepping in or taking off her sunglasses. "I've received reports that you've begun building an unapproved external structure." It took me a second to connect the dots. "Oh, you mean the treehouse?" Her mouth pursed like I'd cursed at her. "That structure violates multiple Pine Hollow aesthetic and architectural codes. You did not file an application. You did not wait for a review. It must come down. Now." I've been in more than a few confrontations in my career, but being scolded like a misbehaving teen on my own front porch, that was new. I tried to keep things polite. "It's a small platform. My kids and I have been working on it together. It's painted to match the bark. Can't be seen from the street. It's more of a personal project. Personal projects still require HOA approval," she said. "It's obstructive and could affect property values." I watched her turn and march off before I could respond. That was my first face-to-face with Judith, but it wasn't the last. Over the next few days, things escalated fast. A warning letter arrived, then another. This one with fines outlined $150 a day if the illegal structure wasn't removed within the week. Amelia grew anxious. She'd grown up in a tight-knit suburban community and knew how aggressive some HOAs could be. Me, I was mostly pissed. What Judith didn't know was that I wasn't just some dad with a hammer and a power drill. I was the county's senior code litigation specialist. My job was to navigate building laws, expose abuses of power, and litigate cases exactly like this. I'd reviewed zoning law for over 15 years. If this HOA thought it could bend rules to fit a personal agenda, they picked the wrong house. Still, I didn't want to go nuclear out the gate. I reviewed the Pine Hollow bylaws we received when we moved in. Nowhere did it explicitly mention tree houses. External structures? Sure. But those were defined as sheds, fences, pergolas. Nothing about structures built into trees or intended for children. The vague phrasing about visible structures disrupting aesthetic continuity was the kind of language I'd dismantled in court a dozen times. It was legal mush. I sent a polite email to the HOA requesting a review, attaching my plans, safety notes, and a statement certifying that the treehouse complied with county regulations. No reply. I followed up with a call. The line went straight to voicemail. The fines continued arriving daily, each one more aggressive. One letter claimed we'd be referred to the HOA's legal team if we didn't comply. I chuckled when I read that. Let them. Word started spreading through the neighborhood. I overheard someone at the local park whispering, "Did you hear Judith's after the new guy for building a treehouse?" The tone wasn't judgmental. It was almost amused. I learned from one neighbor, Linda, that Judith had once filed a formal complaint about a pink flamingo lawn ornament. Another neighbor told me Judith once measured someone's mailbox height with a ruler. The kids, meanwhile, were oblivious. They invited their friends over to the treehouse, built pulley systems with ropes, decorated the walls inside with crayons and little LED lights. I couldn't bear the thought of tearing it down, not just for them, but because it symbolized something far bigger joy. Freedom, childhood. Then came the visit. Judith arrived unannounced with a clipboard and a man I assumed was another board member. She stood in my backyard like a queen inspecting peasantry. "Mr. Reed, you've been warned. Remove the structure or face legal action." I exhaled slowly. "You still haven't responded to my request for a formal review. You're skipping your own process." She snapped. "We don't owe you a review for something built without approval. That's not what your bylaws say." I replied, calm but firm. And county code overrides HOA guidelines when it comes to safety and compliance. Her face tightened. "This community has higher standards. Then maybe your standards need an update," I said. That was the first crack in her facade. She left without another word, but I knew retaliation was coming. And it did. An anonymous report was filed against me, claiming violations of building codes. It went straight to my office. My colleague called laughing. "You've got a stalker in your HOA." I wasn't laughing. Now it was personal. I drafted an official letter using county letterhead, documenting my credentials, attaching the structure's safety certification, and reminding them of their obligation to follow due process. I copied the HOA's legal team. I requested a formal hearing. A week later, I was summoned. The hearing was held in the community clubhouse. Rows of chairs. A folding table at the front where Judith sat, flanked by 2 other board members. Residents had come to watch. I laid out the facts clearly and confidently. Presented building codes, insurance coverage, photos, aesthetic compliance. Judith tried every angle: safety, visibility, community standards, but it fell apart under scrutiny. At one point, a neighbor asked out loud, "If a trampoline's allowed, why not a treehouse?" That got a murmur of agreement. Another board member, a quiet man named Theo, finally said, "I think we should review this fairly. Maybe even visit the property." The vote was held the following week after a site visit, 3-1. The treehouse stayed with a minor request to darken the paint color slightly. I agreed without hesitation. Judith didn't speak to me afterward, but word got out. I started getting thank you emails from neighbors I hadn't even met, people who were fed up with her intimidation tactics. Linda brought us cookies. One neighbor asked if I'd consider joining the board. I declined, but I saw something shift in the community. People were less afraid. The treehouse stands, solid and proud, among the maple branches. Sometimes when I pass it, I see Milo and Ellie pulling up snacks in their rope basket, laughing like pirates defending their ship. And I smile because I didn't just build a treehouse. I helped build a line no bully in a blazer could cross.